Eli sat in his small apartment, staring at the flickering screen of his terminal. It was just another quiet day on the colony world, far from Earth. The days were the same, and the nights were lonely. Eli was a mechanic, skilled with machines, and his life was simple. He worked, ate, and slept. That was it. The loneliness often got to him, but he was used to it. He had no time for relationships, and honestly, didn't think anyone would want to be with someone like him. But today was different. As he scrolled through his daily messages, something unusual popped up in his inbox. The subject line was simple, but the message itself was odd. "You've been matched with a wife and..." "That's me." Eli blinked, read it again, wondering if it was some kind of joke or a glitch in the system. He never signed up for any matchmaking service. He hadn't even thought about marriage in years. The message came from an unknown sender, but it looked official. A matchmaking program? Eli didn't even know they existed out here. With a sigh, he clicked on the message. It was short and to the point. "Hello, Eli. My name is Vera. I am your match. Please contact me to arrange a meeting." Eli rubbed his eyes. This had to be some mistake. There was no way someone out there had matched with him. He hadn't even met many people since coming to the colony, let alone someone willing to marry him. This all felt like some strange dream. Maybe it was a prank, or perhaps a marketing scam. He wasn't sure, but he didn't think it was worth his time. Still, curiosity lingered. Who would send such a message? And who was this Vera? Eli thought about ignoring it, but something in the back of his mind told him he should at least check it out. After all, what harm could it do? He'd been so lonely for so long, maybe this was a sign that his life could be different. He clicked on the link that promised more information. The screen refreshed, showing a picture of a woman. But she wasn't human. Vera was small, no taller than 5 feet. Her skin was a light shade of violet, glowing softly in the light of the image. She had large, almond-shaped eyes that shone like stars. Her hair was long and silver, flowing behind her like a veil. Despite her delicate appearance, her expression was confident and warm. She wore a simple, elegant outfit, and there was a smile on her face that made Eli feel a strange mix of curiosity and discomfort. This was real. She was real. The next line of text explained more about the program. Apparently, matchmaking between different species was common in the galaxy, especially among advanced civilizations. The matchmaking service helped connect compatible individuals for long-term relationships and even marriages. Eli had been selected based on his personality and values qualities that the program believed made him a good match for Vera. Eli's heart raced. The idea of marrying someone he didn't know, someone from an entirely different species, was both thrilling and terrifying. What did she expect from him? And what did he expect from her? The whole idea felt impossible. He wasn't even sure what he would say to her, or what she would think of him. His thoughts were interrupted by a new message notification from Vera. "Eli, I look forward to meeting you. Let me know when you are available. You won't regret this. I promise." Eli sat back in his chair, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. He had no idea how to respond. What could he say to someone who had just told him that they were his match, his future wife? How was he supposed to meet her? What kind of woman would want him as her partner? Still, a part of him wanted to know more. Maybe he was just curious about this strange new world. Maybe it was the loneliness talking. Maybe it was the idea that there was someone out there who might actually care about him. With a deep breath, Eli decided to reply. "I'm free tomorrow afternoon," he typed. "Let's meet." He hit send before he could second-guess himself. The screen blinked as the message was sent. Eli stared at the empty room around him, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Tomorrow, he would meet Vera. He wasn't sure what would happen, but for the first time in a long time, he felt a spark of hope. Tomorrow, his life would change. The next day, Eli felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as he made his way to the meeting location. The place was a sleek, modern building on the edge of the colony. It stood tall and gleamed under the twin suns, a symbol of the advanced technology that had transformed this world. As Eli stepped inside, he was greeted by a friendly receptionist who directed him to the waiting area. The walls were lined with vibrant holographic displays showing various cultures and species, all brought together through the matchmaking program. Eli sat down, tapping his foot nervously. He couldn't stop thinking about Vera. Was she really as perfect as she seemed in her picture? What would she be like in person? He had no idea what to expect. His mind raced with questions. A few minutes later, the door opened, and a woman walked in. She was small, no taller than 5 feet, with long silver hair that shimmered in the light. Her skin had a soft violet hue, and her eyes, large and almond-shaped, shone with a warm, welcoming light. Eli's heart skipped a beat. This was Vera. She smiled at him, and the warmth in her expression made Eli feel instantly at ease. There was something about her, something that drew him in. Despite her delicate appearance, there was strength in the way she carried herself. She seemed confident, calm, and ready for anything. "Eli," she said softly, her voice gentle but firm. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you." Eli stood up, still stunned by her beauty and grace. He managed to smile, feeling awkward. The pleasure's mine. It's nice to meet you, Vera." She stepped closer, extending a hand. Eli hesitated for a moment, then shook her hand. Her grip was firm, yet kind. "You look just like your profile picture," Eli said, trying to break the ice, though it came out sounding a little awkward. He immediately regretted it, but Vera only smiled wider, her eyes sparkling with amusement. "Thank you," she replied. "I could say the same about you." For a moment, the two of them simply stood there, sizing each other up. Eli couldn't help but notice how different she was from anyone he had ever met. She was an alien, yet she didn't seem so different after all. She felt familiar, but that didn't make sense. He barely knew her. "Shall we sit?" Vera asked, gesturing toward the nearby chairs. Eli nodded, and they both took a seat at a small table in the corner. The room was quiet, save for the soft hum of the building's air systems. Vera's presence, however, seemed to fill the space, making it feel more intimate. For the next few moments, neither of them spoke. The silence was comfortable, yet Eli couldn't help but feel the weight of it. He was used to being alone, but this was different. There was something about Vera that made him want to know her, to understand her. Finally, Vera spoke. "I know this might feel strange to you, but I promise, I'm not here to pressure you into anything. I just want to get to know you better. Both deserve a chance at happiness." Eli blinked, surprised by her honesty. He had expected a more formal, almost robotic conversation. But this felt real. She wasn't just following some script. She was speaking from the heart. I don't really know what to say," Eli admitted. "This whole thing is new to me. I never thought something like this would happen." Vera nodded, understanding. "It's new to me as well. But sometimes life presents us with unexpected opportunities. I think we should embrace them." Eli leaned back in his chair, still processing her words. "So, what happens now?" "Well," Vera began, "we start by spending time together. There's no rush, no pressure. I'd like to show you more about my culture, my world, but only if you're open to it." Eli thought for a moment. He wasn't sure if he was ready for something like this, but at the same time, there was a part of him that was intrigued. He had never met anyone like Vera. The idea of learning about her world, about her life, seemed exciting. "Okay," he said, surprising himself. "I'm willing to give it a try." A smile spread across Vera's face, and her eyes lit up. "That's all I ask. I promise this will be worth it." As they continued talking, Eli learned more about Vera's species, the Aeroliths, a peaceful and intelligent race with a deep respect for harmony and balance. Their culture focused on wisdom, growth, and understanding. Vera explained how her people valued the emotional connection between individuals, far beyond physical attraction. For them, a relationship was about companionship and shared purpose. Eli listened carefully, fascinated by everything she said. The way she described her home planet, with its beautiful landscapes, peaceful cities, and advanced technologies, made him feel like he was listening to a story from a faraway dream. And yet, it didn't feel so distant. It felt like something he could be a part of. By the time their meeting ended, Eli was no longer filled with doubt and confusion. There was still uncertainty, of course, but there was also curiosity and something else, a sense of possibility. As they stood to leave, Vera turned to Eli with a soft smile. "I'll look forward to our next meeting," she said. "We have a lot more to share." Eli nodded. "Yeah, me too." As he walked out of the building, he couldn't help but think that maybe, just maybe, this strange meeting was the start of something amazing. The days after Eli's first meeting with Vera passed by in a blur. He found himself thinking about her more often than he expected. Her violet skin, silver hair, and warm smile stayed in his mind. He was still unsure about everything, but one thing was clear: he wanted to see her again. A few days later, Vera reached out to him, suggesting they spend the day together. Eli agreed, though he wasn't sure what to expect. He had never spent an entire day with someone from another species, let alone a potential match. Still, was curious about her world and eager to learn more. The day arrived, and Eli met Vera at the colony's transportation hub. She was waiting for him near a sleek, silver hovercraft. She greeted him with her usual smile, and Eli felt a warmth spread through him. "Ready for an adventure?" she asked, her voice light and inviting. Eli smiled back, though he was still nervous. "I think so. Where are we going?" Her emotion to the hovercraft. "We're going to see my home. Well, not exactly my home, but a place I think you'll enjoy." Eli followed her into the hovercraft, and they took off, soaring over the colony. The landscape below was a mix of high-tech buildings and natural beauty. Eli watched as they flew further from the city, heading into a more rural area. The air was fresher here, and the sky was a bright blue with fluffy clouds. After a short flight, they landed in a lush valley surrounded by towering hills. The valley was peaceful, with vibrant flowers in every color and trees that stretched high into the sky. There was a soft hum in the air, the sound of nature and life all around. It looked nothing like the busy city they had left behind. "This is beautiful," Eli said, his voice filled with awe as he stepped out of the hovercraft. He had never seen a place like this before. Vera smiled. "This is one of my favorite places. It's where I come when I need to think, to find peace."
Oh.
"I thought you might enjoy it." Eli took a deep breath, the fresh air filling his lungs. It was indeed beautiful, unlike anything he had ever experienced. He felt a sense of calm wash over him as they walked along a narrow path that wound through the valley. As they walked, Vera told him more about her world and her people. She explained how the Orcs valued harmony with nature and each other. Their cities were built to blend in with the environment, and technology was used in ways that helped sustain the land rather than harm it. The Orcs had learned to live in balance with their surroundings, something that Eli found fascinating. "So, do you all live like this?" Eli asked. "In harmony with nature?" Vera nodded. "Yes, we believe that peace with nature is the key to peace within ourselves. We've learned to respect the land, the animals, and the plants. We only take what we need and give back whenever we can." Eli thought about this as they walked. It was different from Earth, where people often took more than they needed. Made him realize how much humans had taken from the world and how little they had given back in return. The way Vera spoke about her people's way of life made him wonder if humans could learn something from them. As they continued walking, Vera pointed to a group of small animals grazing in the distance. "These are Zarlians," she said. "They're gentle creatures and they help keep the land healthy. They feed on the plants and in return their waste nourishes the soil." Eli watched the Zarlians for a moment. They were like large, soft rabbits hopping from plant to plant. Their fur was a mix of green and brown, helping them blend in with the landscape. It was a peaceful sight, and Eli felt grateful to be there with Vera. After a while, they came to a small clearing where a large, clear lake sat, surrounded by tall trees. The sun shone brightly on the water, and Eli could see fish swimming just beneath the surface. The place felt like something out of a dream, calm, untouched, and full of life. "This is where I come to think," Vera said softly, sitting down on a smooth rock by the water's edge. "It's a place of reflection." For me, Eli sat down next to her, the two of them watching the lake in silence for a while. He didn't feel the need to say anything. There was something peaceful about being there with her. something he couldn't quite explain. As the afternoon wore on, they talked more. Vera shared stories about her childhood, her family, and the things she loved about her world. Eli listened intently, finding himself drawn to her in ways he hadn't expected. He was amazed by her intelligence, her kindness, and the way she viewed the world. She had a perspective that was so different from his own. But it was also refreshing. At the same time, Eli couldn't help but feel a little overwhelmed. He had never considered a life like this living on another planet, marrying someone from another species. But the more he learned about Vera, the more he realized that there was something special about her, something worth exploring. As the day came to a close, and they headed back to the colony, Eli found himself smiling. He was still unsure about what the future held, but he felt a connection to Vera that he hadn't felt with anyone before. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't thinking about his loneliness. Instead, he was thinking about the possibilities of the future, about the adventure that lay ahead. A few days after spending time with Vera, Eli found himself thinking about her more and more. He hadn't expected to feel this way. The time they had spent together had been unlike anything he had experienced. But something was still holding him back. The idea of marrying someone from a completely different species seemed impossible. It was a huge decision, one he didn't feel ready to make. One morning, Vera contacted him again. She invited him to a special event test, she called it. Eli was unsure at first, but Vera assured him that it was just a tradition, something her people did to help couples get to know each other better. There would be no pressure, she promised. It would just be a chance for them to see how well they worked together. Eli wasn't sure what to think, but he agreed. After all, he wanted to understand more about her and her world. Maybe this test would give him the answers he needed. The event was held in a large, open space, far from the colony's busy streets. Vera met him at the entrance, wearing a simple, flowing gown that made her look even more beautiful than usual. She greeted him with a warm smile, but there was a hint of seriousness in her expression. "This is a special tradition for my people," Vera explained. "It's not about winning or losing. It's about learning to trust each other and seeing how well we can work as a team." Eli nodded, feeling a bit nervous. Wasn't sure what to expect. The test was a series of challenges designed to test a couple's emotional resilience, communication skills, and teamwork. There were no physical challenges, just tasks that required them to work together and support each other. The first challenge was simple but meaningful. They were each given a small, delicate plant that needed to be carefully nurtured. The task was to work together to find the best spot for the plant to grow, taking into consideration the environment, the sunlight, and the soil. It seemed easy enough, but as they worked, Eli realized how much thought had to go into it. It wasn't just about placing the plant in the right spot, it was about understanding its needs, just like any relationship. As they moved around the garden, discussing the best place for the plant, Eli was struck by how natural it felt to be working alongside Vera. Her calm, thoughtful approach helped him focus. They didn't argue or disagree. They simply worked together, taking turns and discussing their options. It was a strange feeling, but it felt right. It felt like they were a team. After they found the perfect spot for the plant, they moved on to the next challenge. This one was a little more difficult. They had to build a small shelter using materials they found around them. The shelter needed to be sturdy, but it also had to reflect both of their personalities. Eli was used to building things, but this wasn't a normal construction project. They had to work with the materials they had, which were much different from what Eli was used to. The challenge wasn't just about creating something functional, it was about creativity and teamwork as they worked. Eli found himself admiring Vera's resourcefulness. She didn't rush or panic. Instead, she took her time, thinking carefully about each step. She trusted him to handle certain tasks, but she always offered suggestions and guidance. Even when things didn't go according to plan, she remained calm, which helped Eli stay focused. By the time they finished, the shelter wasn't perfect, but it was sturdy, and it felt like a reflection of both of them. It was a symbol of their ability to work together, to support each other even when the task seemed impossible. After the shelter was built, the final part of the test was the most emotional. They were each asked to share something deeply personal, something about their past, their fears, or their dreams for the future. Eli hesitated at first. He wasn't used to sharing his feelings, especially with someone he had just met. Vera's calm presence made him feel comfortable. She listened intently as he spoke about his past, about the loneliness he had felt before meeting her. He told her about his family, the people he had left behind on Earth, and the struggles he faced living alone on the colony. When it was Vera's turn, she shared her own story. She spoke about her people, their traditions, and the values they held dear. She told Eli about the pressures of being part of a society where everything was expected to be perfect. But despite those pressures, she said, she had always longed for something more. She wanted a partner who would see her as more than just her title or her appearance. She wanted someone who would understand her for who she really was. Listening to her made Eli realize just how much he admired Vera. She wasn't just a beautiful, intelligent alien. She was a person with her own dreams, fears, and desires. She wasn't perfect, but she was perfect for him. At the end of the day, the test wasn't about passing or failing. It was about understanding each other better, about seeing how they could work together as a team. Eli realized that he had learned a lot from the challenges, not just about Vera, but about himself as well. He had seen how easily they could complement each other, how they balanced each other out. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the landscape, Eli turned to Vera. "I think I'm starting to understand," he said quietly. Vera smiled, her eyes softening. "I'm glad." Eli felt a weight lift from his shoulders. For the first time since meeting Vera, he wasn't worried about the future. He didn't know exactly where this journey would lead, but he knew he was ready to take the next step with her. Eli sat quietly in his small apartment, staring out the window at the stars above. The colony was calm tonight, with only the soft hum of the city in the background, but Eli wasn't at peace. His thoughts kept drifting to Vera. The more time he spent with her, the more conflicted he felt. Everything about her was wonderful. The way she smiled, the way she listened, the way she made him feel like he mattered. She was different, and yet so much like him. But still, something inside him held him back. It was more than just the difference in their species. It wasn't that he was afraid of her being an alien, but it was the reality of their situation. Could he really marry someone from a different world? Would their lives ever truly match? There were so many unknowns, so many things he hadn't even begun to understand. The idea of marrying Vera, of giving up everything he knew for a life with her, felt overwhelming. Eli had always been a practical man. He didn't believe in fairy tales or unrealistic dreams. He believed in hard work, in earning his way, in knowing where he stood. And right now, he didn't know where he stood. He didn't know what the future would look like, and that scared him. He ran his fingers through his hair, trying to make sense of his feelings. He had felt so certain about their connection during the test, during their time together in the valley, but now doubts crept into his mind. Maybe it was too much too soon. Maybe he was being swept away by the excitement of it all. After all, he barely knew Vera. He had only known her for a short time, yet it felt like they had been through so much already. It was like everything was moving too fast. Eli sighed and glanced at the small clock on his desk. Vera was expecting him tonight. She had invited him to dinner, a casual evening to talk more and spend time together. She had been kind, understanding, patient. She hadn't pushed him. But Eli knew he had to make a decision soon. He couldn't keep running from the questions in his mind. He stood up, pacing the room. He needed to talk to someone, to get advice. But who? He couldn't speak to his family. They were thousands of miles away, and they wouldn't understand. The situation, his friends, had never been in a position like this. There was no one he could turn to. This was his decision, and his alone. The doorbell rang, snapping him out of his thoughts. He opened the door to find Vera standing there, smiling warmly as always. The sight of her took Eli's breath away, but it also deepened the weight in his chest. Her beauty, her confidence, it only reminded him of how different their lives were, Hey, Vera said softly, stepping inside. I hope I'm not interrupting anything. I thought we could have dinner together. Eli nodded, trying to push his doubts aside. No, not at all. I've just been thinking. Vera raised an eyebrow, sensing the change in his tone. Thinking about what? Eli hesitated. He didn't want to burden her with his doubts, but he knew he couldn't keep them inside any longer. I've been thinking about us, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't know if I'm ready for this. It feels like everything's happening so fast. I don't even know what my life would look like with you. I'm scared. Vera stood there for a moment, her expression softening as she listened to him. Eli, I understand. This isn't easy. I know it's a lot to ask, and I don't want to rush you into anything you're not ready for. I care about you, but I want you to feel sure about this too? Her words were gentle, kind. She wasn't angry or upset. She was understanding. And in that moment, Eli realized how lucky he was to have someone like her in his life. I just don't know if I can do this, Eli confessed. Everything's so different. It's not just about the distance between our worlds, it's about everything. The culture, the expectations, the future. I don't know how we can make it work. Vera walked over to him slowly, placing a hand on his shoulder. Eli, I'm not asking you to have all the answers. I'm not asking you to have everything figured out. I just want to be with you, and I believe we can work through whatever challenges come our way. I want to build something real with you. Eli looked at her, searching her eyes for any hint of doubt, but there was none. There was only sincerity and hope. It made him feel something he hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of peace. A flicker of hope. I don't know what the future holds, he said quietly. But I do know that I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose you. Vera smiled, a soft, knowing smile. Then let's take it one step at a time. There's no need to rush. We can figure it out together. Eli nodded, feeling the weight on his shoulders lighten. He didn't have all the answers, and he wasn't sure what the future would look like. But for the first time, he felt like he wasn't alone in this. Vera was right beside him, and together, they could face whatever came next. As they sat down for dinner, Eli couldn't help but feel a sense of calm. The doubts were still there, but they didn't feel as heavy. He had no idea where this journey would take him. But for the first time, he was ready to take the next step. With Vera by his side, maybe everything would be okay. The days passed quickly after that conversation. Eli felt lighter, more at peace with himself. He knew that he wasn't the only one with doubts, but Vera had been understanding. She had given him the space to think, and in doing so, she had shown him just how much she cared. Slowly, he began to open his heart to the possibility of a future with her. Even though the path ahead was still unclear, Eli and Vera continued to spend time together each day, bringing them closer. They took walks through the colony's parks, visited local markets, and shared quiet moments under the stars. Eli had always been used to his quiet, solitary life, but being with Vera felt different. It felt like he had found someone who understood him in ways no one else ever had. One evening, after a long day of walking through the colony, Vera turned to him as they walked back to his apartment. She had a serious expression on her face, which caught Eli's attention. There's something I need to tell you, Vera said softly. Eli looked at her, his heart racing slightly. What is it? I've been thinking a lot about our future, Vera began. I've been so focused on getting to know you, on learning about your world, but I know that there are still things we need to consider, things that could be difficult. Eli felt a small knot form in his stomach. He knew this wasn't going to be easy. What do you mean? He asked, trying to hide the nervousness in his voice. Vera stopped walking and faced him. I've been thinking about the challenges we might face. It's not just because of our different backgrounds, but because of how we live. My people are used to a life of peace, of balance. We are a society built on understanding and wisdom. I know that your life, your world is different. Eli nodded, understanding what she was saying. The earth he had come from was full of conflict and hardship, a world where survival wasn't always easy. It was hard to imagine what a peaceful life would look like, especially when so much of his own world had been defined by struggle. Don't want to change you, Eli, Vera continued, her voice gentle. But I also don't want you to feel like you have to change who you are to be with me. We both have to be true to ourselves. Eli felt a sense of relief at her words. She wasn't asking him to be someone he wasn't. She wasn't asking him to give up everything he knew. Instead, she was offering him a chance to grow together, to understand each other's worlds and values without forcing him to change his core self. "I don't want to change who I am either," Eli said, looking into her eyes. "But I do want to try. I want to try to understand your world, your people. I want to try to build something with you." Vera smiled, the tension in her shoulders easing. "I'm glad to hear that," she said. "I've never asked for perfection. Eli, I only want us to be real with each other, no matter how hard it gets." As they stood there, Eli felt a sense of clarity. He had been so afraid of the unknown, of the challenges that lay ahead. But now he realized that it wasn't about being perfect. It was about the willingness to face the future together. No matter how uncertain it was, for the first time, Eli allowed himself to picture a future with Vera. He thought about the life they could build. One where they both learned from each other, grew together, and faced the challenges side by side. It wasn't going to be easy, but with Vera, he felt like he could face anything. The next morning, Eli and Vera decided to take another step forward. They planned a trip to Vera's home planet, a place Eli had always heard about but never imagined he would visit. He was nervous but also excited. This would be a big change for him, but it felt like the right thing to do. It was a chance for him to see the world Vera had come from, to understand her people and their values on a deeper level. As the days passed, they prepared for the journey. Vera explained what Eli could expect, teaching him about the customs and traditions of her people. She made sure he felt comfortable with everything, reassuring him that there was no rush. The more they talked about it, the more Eli realized just how much he had already learned from her. Her patience, her wisdom, and her compassion had already begun to change the way he thought about the world. When the day finally arrived, Eli felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. As the ship took off from the colony, he looked out the window, and watching the familiar landscape of the colony fade into the distance. Vera sat next to him, her hand resting gently on his. "Are you ready?" she asked softly. Eli turned to her, smiling. "I'm ready." The journey ahead was uncertain, but for the first time Eli didn't feel afraid. He had someone by his side who understood him, who cared for him, and who was willing to face whatever came next with him. The future was still unknown, but he was no longer worried. With Vera, he felt like he could take on anything. The journey to Vera's home planet felt like a dream. The ship glided through space, taking Eli further from the colony he had called home, and closer to an unknown future. Vera sat beside him, her presence calm and reassuring. She had shared so much about her world, her people, and their way of life, but nothing could prepare Eli for the sight of it. As they approached her planet, Eli gazed out of the window. The planet was beautiful, a vast blue and green world dotted with floating cities and lush forests. It looked like something out of a storybook. He couldn't help but feel a mix of awe and nervousness. This was real. He was here, stepping into a world so different from his own. Vera noticed his wide eyes and smiled. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Eli nodded, his voice barely a whisper. "It's amazing. I never imagined anything like this." The ship descended slowly, landing in one of the largest cities. The buildings were sleek and futuristic, but they blended perfectly with the surrounding nature. Eli could see green spaces between the structures, trees growing tall, and flowers blooming in every corner. There was a peaceful energy in the air, unlike anything he had ever felt before. As the ship doors opened, Eli stepped out onto the soft ground. The air was fresh, almost sweet, with a hint of something floral. He took a deep breath, feeling the tension in his chest ease. This was different. This place felt calm. It was a stark contrast to the busy, noisy colony he had left behind. "Welcome to my world," Vera said, her voice warm. Eli turned to look at her. For the first time, he saw her world through her eyes. He realized just how much this place meant to her and how much it had shaped her. It wasn't just a place. It was her home, her people, and their way of life. And now it was his too, at least in a small way. Vera led him through the city, explaining the history and traditions of her people. The Aeroliths had a deep respect for the natural world, and their cities were built with harmony in mind. Everything from the buildings to the transportation systems was designed to have minimal impact on the environment. Their technology wasn't about conquering the land, it was about living with it as they walked. Vera introduced Eli to a few of her friends and family members. Each of them greeted him warmly, curious but kind. They asked him about his life on the colony, about Earth, and about his experiences. Eli shared his story, and while the details were different, he could see that they understood him. Kind, open-minded, and interested in learning about him, just as he was learning about them. By the time they reached Vera's home, Eli felt both exhausted and inspired. The day had been a whirlwind of new experiences, new faces, and new ideas. But there was something else to a sense of belonging. He wasn't just a visitor in Vera's world, he was a part of it, and he could feel it in the way people looked at him. They weren't just tolerating him. They were welcoming him. Vera's home was a beautiful house, nestled in a quiet part of the city. It was surrounded by lush greenery, with large windows that let in the natural light. The inside was simple yet elegant, filled with soft furniture, plants, and artwork that reflected her people's love for nature. "Make yourself at home," Vera said, as she showed Eli to a cozy sitting area. "This is your home too now." Eli took a seat, looking around. It was hard to believe that he was here, in this strange but beautiful world, with someone like Vera. He had been so uncertain, so full of doubt, but now he felt like he had found something he hadn't even known he was searching for. As the evening came, Vera prepared a simple meal, and the two of them sat together at the table. They ate quietly at first, but soon the conversation flowed easily, talked about their pasts, their hopes for the future, and the challenges they both knew they would face. There were no illusions of perfection, but there was a sense of partnership, a feeling that no matter what, they would face things together. "I'm glad you're here," Vera said, her voice soft. "I know things won't always be easy, but I believe in us. I believe in what we can build together." Eli looked at her, his heart swelling. For the first time, he wasn't afraid of the future. He didn't know what it would hold, but he knew that with Vera by his side, it was something worth facing. "I believe in us too," he said quietly. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, just enjoying each other's company. For all the uncertainty they had both felt, something about being here in this place made everything feel right. As the night grew darker, Vera stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "I know there will be challenges ahead," she said, her voice thoughtful. "But I also know that we're strong enough to face them, together." Eli stood and walked over to her, standing beside her as they both gazed out at the night sky. The stars were brighter here, clearer than he had ever seen them on the colony. It was as if the universe itself was welcoming him to this new chapter of his life. "I'm ready for whatever comes next," Eli said, his voice filled with quiet confidence. Vera smiled, her eyes reflecting the stars above. "Me too." In that moment, Eli knew that no matter what the future held, he wasn't alone. He had Vera, and together they could face anything.